What's up, everybody? It is Friday night. You know what that means. The bar is open. Woohoo! We are broadcasting live on the WLFE-DB radio network, the only show on that network that is about 110 proof. No lie. Seriously. So tonight, I am excited. We have a guest tonight. So as everyone's filing in, please do me a favor. Sound off. Let me know where you're from, who's here, what you're drinking. What's up, Bob? Good to see you, buddy. I do have a guest tonight, which I'm going to announce in a moment. But I'm going to go over the rules as I always do, because we always need rules. We need rules to live by, because you know what? Sometimes there's assholes out there. So here we go. Rule number 1 is you are welcome to ask any kind of paranormal question. Any kind. Doesn't matter. And I will give you my skeptical answer. And in the case of like tonight, when I have a guest, they will give you their answer too. It's like a double feature. It's awesome. Rule number 2 is that I don't know everything. And that's the God's honest truth. I mean, who knows everything? Nobody. But I am not afraid to look it up. I have multiple screens here, so I can look up information. We can discuss things, or we can ask our guest tonight. Rule number 3 is that it's the golden rule. Listen to Patrick Swayze and be nice. This is a place for everyone to discuss, to talk about things, to ask questions, get answers, whatever. Just don't call each other names and stuff, because then I'll boot you. And I've only booted one person so far. One. I don't want any more. All right. Rule number 4 is if you have a question for me or my guest, please do me a favor and put a Q or the word question in front of your question, because that helps me cycle through the comments and find it faster, and we can get right to it. And then rule number 5, as always, drink up. That's right. I got my rum tonight, and it's feeling good. So tonight's guest is my friend Paul Michael Kane. He is world famous, so world famous, and I love saying that because I see him laughing in the background. But this guy is a photographer, a designer, a writer, adventurer. He does amazing projects, and I met him many moons ago. Many moons. And we can talk about that in a little bit. And we hit it off. Great guy, really nice guy. He's one of the people that are there that he's not only a professional, but if you need help, every time I ask him a question, he's right there. And he gives me a buttload of information. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to bring him on. Oh, wait, I screwed up. There we go. There he is. Oh, I got to unmute you too. There we go.
Hey, Kenny.
What's up, buddy?
A lot of things. It's been a great year so far.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, we had an uprising. Yeah. Drink up, my friend. So, all right. We got a lot of people in here. This is nice. We got...
Can I just tell you how good it is to see you?
Well,
it's like, I don't know if it's being in lockdown or whatever, but it's really good to see you and talk to you. There's Chuck.
Hey, Chuck. Chuck's in the room. Hey, JD, Donna, Stacy, everyone's here. Oh, JD, how's your butt? I don't know about that one. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll get into that a little bit. So for everyone that doesn't know who you are, let's start the show off with, please introduce yourself to everyone.
All right. So my name is Paul Michael Kane. I do use all 3 of my names. It's a little pompous, but I also hold a lordship in Scotland. So I'd rate the 3 names. So my wife got me like a plot of land in Scotland. It's a tree farm. It's 1 square foot. So that entitles me to a lordship.
So, I must sign up for this now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It comes with all sorts of perks. You get a tartan scarf. Ooh. Yeah. There's not enough room in this house for my ego and my lordship. But yes, I am a photographer. I am a traveler, a adventurer, I guess. I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. Meeting people like yourself, lecturing at different historic locations or paranormal events. I actually just started teaching college, which is very cool. So it would be, let's see, Professor Lord, Paul Michael Kane, and I'm working on Esquire and maybe Doctor.
All right.
But
So what do
love
you teach? What do you teach in
I'm
college?
teaching photography.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a brand new development.
Wow.
Just before Christmas, I got a call from one of the local colleges asking me if I would like to take up the Digital Photography 2 class. And I said yes in a hot minute, because that's my dream job right there. I teach I've taught high school photography, I've taught middle school photography, and but college is where it's at, right? Because these people are paying for it. They're going to do something with it, and you want to get in there at that stage.
Right.
And it's a brand new development. My first class was this week, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. But I have them call me Paul, not Lordship or Professor.
Oh, I would totally. I'd be like, you're all calling me Jedi Master Lord. Biddle. That's right.
But writer, entrepreneur with my Lightbox Photography cards, and it just keeps going on and on. I just try to keep life. Yep, there they are. I just try to keep life interesting. Try to keep going.
So you are one of the main photographers that I go to when I have a question, because
I love that.
I do a lot, and I do a lot with photography, more analyzing photos, obviously, with what I do as a hobby. And there's a few times when I've been stumped, or I'm not sure, and I've come to you quite a few times. So anyone in the chat room, you guys are watching, if you have photos that you're not sure about and you want someone to look at them, feel free to shoot me a personal message on Facebook, and we'll get your photo up here and we can look at it sometime tonight. Because not only are you going to have this jackass looking at your photo, but you're going to have a actual 100% professional photographer.
Jackass.
There you go. Oh, how's that vodka doing?
It's getting better each sip. What I love about what you do, Kenny, is can we talk about our first meeting? Or
we can talk about this is your show. I'm just a host.
So Kenny and I met way back. It's got to be going on 10 or 11 years now at Fort Mifflin. We were doing an event there, and we shared the same side of the room. As I recall, I had one table, you had another, and I was there strictly as a photographer. But with historic locations, events there, it's inevitable we get the ghost hunters. And with the Kanzari cards and everything, apparently that made me an expert in the field of paranormal research. So this sweet old lady, she comes over to my table and she's showing me all these 4x6s and asking me all these questions. And I'm telling her what I see in the images, and she's getting irate with each and every word. So having met Kenny and looked at some of his books and stuff, I immediately said, that guy over there, that's the guy you want to talk to. She stormed off and went and talked to Kenny, who probably gave her many of the same answers I did. That is one of my favorite stories.
So I remember, I'm gonna put in my 2 cents of this story now. So I remember looking over, because we were on a corner.
Mm-hmm.
We were like that, and I looked over at you, and I see you with this little old lady going like that, and I'm like, oh shit! If he's not answering, he sent it to me. What the hell am I getting into? And this lady comes over, and I gotta say, I mean, she was genuine. She was excited, and she had she had a stack of photos, literally like an inch thick.
4x6s. Yep.
Yeah, 4x6 prints. This was not a tablet or a phone. This was actual prints, old school prints. And she's very excited to show me these pictures. And she's telling me about who validated these and who looked at these and this and that. And Paul over here said to come talk to you. And I was like, oh, great, dick. Okay, so let me see what you got. And her pictures, the one she was really proud of was these two golden orbs.
Yep.
And I'm looking at them going, I really think these are street lights. Do you have any other pictures? Because this is blurry. This is out of focus. Do you have something else? The very next picture, a very clear, crystal clear, sharp image of two poles with street lamps on them. Exact the same. And I was like, well, there you go. Yeah. Took them, grabbed them out of my hand, stormed off.
Right. Yep.
Didn't want to talk to me. And then maybe an hour later or sometime later, she was in the lecture hall. And then I was in there because I was going to do a talk. They announced me, and I walked up, and she's like, got up in the middle of the audience and stormed out, like stomping feet, everything. I was like, oh my God, this is what Paul did to me.
And that's what I admire about what you do, because you don't sugarcoat it. You tell it honestly. You tell it with a very high degree of technical proficiency. And you don't tell them what they want to hear. You don't do that, which I think is very admirable in this field, because there are a lot of people who will take advantage of this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we see this a lot where you go to a paranormal convention and it's table after table of experts.
Yes.
Like, it's definitely in quotes experts that will look at photos and tell you what you want to hear or what you believe, rather than tell you the honest truth. And I mean, I'm not a dick about it. I really don't. I don't like to piss off people like that.
Right.
Unless they deserve it. But I mean, most of the time, like this woman was very excited. And I knew she was excited, and I knew no matter what I did, it didn't matter.
Nope.
It would
no
not
matter what you said.
She already knew. I remember the one line. I talked to Mark Nesbitt, who is an author from Gettysburg, and he told me that these were real. I had something. I'm like, all right, I know Mark. He's a friend of mine. He's a great storyteller. Yeah. But he's not a photographer.
No.
And that's it. I'm not being mean to him or insulting him. He's just not a photographer. This is what I say. Yeah. And plus the other picture that you had that disproves your own.
and how often does that happen in what you do? How often do you have like a bracket of images before and after where you can say that picture right there, that's what this is?
That's hardly ever.
Right. Yeah.
You hardly ever get that because everything's digital now, and they only want to send you one photo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the big problem. So I'm gonna pause here because we do have a question.
Oh.
Let's see. JD's question is, what were those specific times? What were the photos of? What stumped you about them, Kenny? And what did you guys conclude after reviewing them? Oh, I'm guessing talking about the ghost pictures from the light. So that was the main picture was the golden orbs.
Two orbs.
There was two orbs. They were in line with each other. It was a very foggy kind of, when you go out to like a cemetery and it's that foggy kind of night.
Just misty, yep.
Imagine you have that, and then you take the lens and you go like this with the focus. And you're totally out of focus, and it just looks like these golden spheres of globes, glowing globes. And that was basically it. So
what did that was I saw your book on the orbs. So I was like, that guy right there. He wrote a book.
And that every time I think about you, and I'm like, yeah, that motherfucker screwed me.
Son of a bitch.
That's how he did it. So I guess, since this is not only a skeptical show, but it's also related to the paranormal. Mm-hmm. How did you get connected? Like, I know I think we met before Fort Mifflin, or maybe it was after. I'm not sure, but I remember you were part of a group. We actually went to a. Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember because I've had some vodka. As I recall, so what got me into the paranormal was just a perfect storm of projects. I had just released my first book, which was on Eastern State Penitentiary,
Okay.
which is in Philadelphia, and the Kanzari cards had just come out. Now, for those who don't know, the Kanzari cards are a blend of tarot cards with a Ouija board. They were developed by a company in Detroit, and I had been hired to shoot all 88 cards, which was a blast. I love horror movies of every kind, and this was like shooting a horror movie one frame at a time. And my family's in it, my kid is in it, my wife is in it, and it was that and the Eastern State book. There's my wife.
That I knew it.
Yep. She's also, the poor thing, she's also the one in, is it Hallway, or there's one where she's in the tub. It's a suicide card, I think.
Okay.
And
you keep talking, I'll look for it.
The poor thing, I had her doing all these crazy stuff, but that's what got me noticed in the paranormal world, is these cards. And then mixed in with the Eastern State book, which is gritty, grungy, abandoned locations, which is what I love. I love photography with a purpose, trying to help promote awareness about a historic location. And the paranormal stuff came almost as an aside to all that historic stuff. And then I discovered these are some really cool people. Yeah, there's my wife. That is Caro syrup and red food coloring for the blood. It was so fun to do that. We shot for about a year making those cards, and all the guy gave me was a list of 88 cards, and I just checked them off as I went. And I could not believe, to this day, they still sell and they're still very popular. I get emails all the time about people's experience with them, and I have to curb my enthusiasm for those because I'm like yourself. I'm a skeptic. These are cards. I created the images. I did not create all the symbols or anything else with it. I didn't create the reading patterns or anything. But some of the stories that I've heard come out of these cards have been truly astonishing.
Like what? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, absolutely. A friend of my wife's, who is a Latin family, they're very religious. They did a reading with the cards. And in the spread of the cards, you turn over some and you keep some hidden.
Okay.
So within the ones that were face up, the suicide card was there. The brother card was there. There's numbers on the cards. The numbers 68 were there. And wouldn't you know it, my wife's friend, Claudia, her mom's brother committed suicide in 1968. And I was like, that's like a straight flush, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's weird. It's really weird.
It's weird.
Another one was a podcast where the cards, now, full disclosure, I was not on, I was like you and I, they were doing it there. The card spelled out radio. And I was like, that's pretty special right there. So I can't claim that one. But there were some really, really cool stories that came out about it. And people still use them to this day, which is astonishing because it's over 10 years old. It's over 10 years old. And I sometimes will get emails. Where can I find them? I heard your name associated with them. And it's pretty cool. I mean, that they're still around and they're still kicking. I see them on eBay sometimes too. Nobody wants to buy a used deck though, right? It's like a used Ouija board.
I take them. I still get Ouija boards. I still collect them. And any kind of oddity like that. I mean, and these have been on my shelf. I put them actually back here at the beginning of the show,
That's
just
awesome.
for you mostly, and then I took them down. But they're actually over on this side with my ghost books. So they usually are displayed over there. And it's an interesting starter piece when people come visit.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to talk about them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with those. Those were a lot of fun. I think some new stock on that. My personal stock is dwindling. Can I keep giving them away?
You gotta sell.
Yep, absolutely.
So then, how did you? I guess you got noticed
Yeah.
by some paranormal people, and then
I got invited. I got invited to a group,
right.
and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the group. It had an acronym. Shocking.
They all do.
Everybody wore black. But
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But the great part about the paranormal groups are the people. They are curious, and they're a deep lot. They really want to believe, and that's both good and bad. I think.
Right.
When you have my daughter loves these ghost hunting shows. She loves them, and she knows they're just entertainment.
Right.
The TV shows are just entertainment. But we watch these shows, and they'll be at somebody's house. Something will happen, and then my daughter inevitably says, "Why did they leave?" And that's exactly why this kind of stuff is dangerous. I mean, you do stuff that will turn somebody's mind. You might say something so innocent, but in their head, it's very harmful.
Mm-hmm.
So this group that I was with for a very brief time was very respectful. They did more businesses than homes, and I can't remember. It was an old bar or tavern or an inn.
It was. I think the one that I saw you at was Lakeview.
Lakeview
House.
That's a house, right? That's a big.
It was like a former like hotel. It was kind of a hotel that they turned into a haunted attraction.
Yeah,
like a Halloween attraction. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was very interesting to me, and it cemented that if I were to put together a team, I would be much more critical of the people joining.
Right.
Because if a door moved a half an inch, everybody lost their mind. And I'm like, wait, guys, slow down, stop. What's going on? Why is this happening? And it really made me think, if I ever put a dream team together, what kind of people I would want. And I would want a healthy mix of both, skeptics and believers, because it just seemed to me everybody there was looking for a ghost.
Right.
Not for what logical explanations could be made.
I think that's something that it's across the board. It's a common thing where if you go on a ghost hunt with a ghost hunting team, the majority of them, and most of the time all of them, are already convinced that the place is haunted.
Mm-hmm.
Like they heard the stories, they heard the rumors, they're going there because it's haunted.
Yep.
They want to. And likewise with like Bigfoot hunters that go out into the woods where there has been sightings. They already think, okay, Bigfoot is here. I just have to find him.
Yep.
UFO people, they go to certain areas and they're like, all right, there's been sightings here before. I'm going to see a UFO.
Yep.
So yeah, you run into that a lot, and it's very hard. I guess when I go, because I attend a lot of them things.
Yeah.
I usually pay a couple bucks when they're cheap. I don't do the expensive ones.
Right.
There's like ones out there like $50, $75. I'm like, for what? But I love just going and sitting in the corner and watching and just watching these people and seeing what they do, how they do it, how they justify it sometimes. Because, I like to play dumb. And they're like, oh, what's that device? What's that do?
Right.
And then they tell you and they explain it. And I was like, oh. And I especially like when people are playing with cameras. I love that. And there's been quite a few times I'm like, I wish Paul was here. Paul would get a kick out of this. I think you would be dying inside sometimes seeing what they do.
I've shot in some of the most reportedly haunted locations on the East Coast, from Eastern State to Fort Mifflin. So like my when I went to Fort Mifflin for the first time, I had known about its reputation, and I am an open-minded skeptic. I want to see it. I want to see it, right? So I went into one of the powder kegs or one of the casemates. It's complete dark. And I sat there for about 10 minutes. And I tried to really like clear my head and just get in a receptive state. And then after 10 minutes, I'm freezing and nothing's happening. And I'm not investigating, but I'm hearing everything happen around me. There's voices, there's movement, there are steps above me. And if you're in a casemate, you're like underground, basically. Right. And you're hearing steps. And I'm like, what? So the only place that I can legitimately say that I've had some experiences was the Lazaretto. You've been there, right? Yeah. 1799 Lazaretto?
Yep.
And that got me on the Ghost Hunters show. That was the Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters with
Jason Hawes?
Jason, yeah. So
really? I don't know if I've seen that episode.
It never aired.
Oh, okay.
It never aired. It was supposed to be the last season, and they chopped it at 6 episodes.
Okay.
And but I had been talking with some of the people who took care of it and were trying to get it restored. And my tripod. Now you know tripods, right?
Oh, yeah.
You remember this story?
I remember the story. Yeah.
I was shooting. Now I never take my camera off the tripod because the tripod forces me to slow down and compose my shots.
Right.
But I wanted this really cool shot of the staircase, which is this very cool geometrical. It's almost like an MC Escher scene, but I had to shoot down at it, and there's no way I can get my tripod over the edge. So I took it off, and I'm leaning over the banister shooting down, and I feel something hit the back of me, and it's my tripod. My tripod was up on the one leg was sticking straight up. And I'm like, all right, I stopped. I'm like, did my camera bag get attached to it? Did something cause it to fall over onto me? I checked all the fixtures, all the fittings on it. Everything was tight. So I told the people that took care of that place. And then upstairs, I was on top of the woman's wing, and there was all this wallpaper hanging down. And I had this eerie feeling that it wasn't even eerie. It was like somebody's looking over my shoulder, watching what I'm doing. So much so that I actually turned around. Of course, there was nobody there, but was it all that hanging wallpaper? So those people told the producers of Ghost Hunters who had expressed interest in there. So I get an email from the producer of Ghost Hunters, and I'm like, come on, who is this? But that was of all the places I've been, all the different historic locations that are reportedly haunted. That's the only place I've ever had personal experiences, is what they call. I've never seen a ghost. I've never seen anything that would make me question, what did I just see? There was always a logical explanation or something. Right. But I do enjoy, I guess I enjoy the hunt, I guess.
Yeah,
and my daughter loves watching it on TV, and she loves that. I met what's the one on the Travel Channel? That's the Ghost Adventures. So I met Jay, whose wife is a photographer. I met her out in Lake George at a paranormal show, and Jay Wasley, I think his name is.
I don't know who that is. No.
He stays back and watches the computer screens.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think his name was Jay, but I was talking to his wife because she was a photographer. She's there, still a photographer on set, and my daughter loves that I got to meet them. But I mean, she loves watching them. I love watching them because of the locations. I'm always taking notes, because if they can get there, so can I. And I just want to photograph the place.
I love that mentality. That motherfucker got there. Mm-hmm. I can get there.
Yeah. A lot of people ask me that about getting into abandoned locations. And I, for the most part, I'll say, I always try to get permission. Always. because I want to publish. I want
Right.
these images to be used. On rare exceptions, I'll skirt around a no trespassing sign that I may or may not have seen. But for the most part, I do try to legally obtain permission. And the best way into these places are historic societies.
Right. Right.
Every town has one. And if you ask, they're more than likely willing to bring you there and show you the place because they want to talk about stuff.
Right.
And so getting permission for me is critical. I love getting permission to get into these places.
That is probably the best tip that you can give anyone about historical locations. If you can get the history buff involved,
absolutely,
you're golden.
Yeah.
Like and don't be a fake dick. Like be interested.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Was that rule number 3?
That was rule number 3. I love it. But yeah, be nice. Like reach out to them because the history is the important part. It really is. To preserve the history, and that's what the historical societies want to do. They want to preserve the history, and this is like most of the people that are involved are usually retired people.
Yeah,
and this is their life. This is what they do all the time. So when you show an interest, yes, that you're going to get in. You're going to have more access.
This is how far. This is how far I'll go to get into a historic location. I can't remember. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, here in town, I live in a town called Ogdensburg, and it's pretty historic. There's a number of historic locations here, and there is a mine here. They mined zinc, 33 miles of tunnels underneath us, and they wanted to do a haunted mine tour for Halloween, and they wanted to do it as a fundraiser for the school. So the PTO said, no, absolutely not. We're 3 weeks away from Halloween. There's no way we can do it. Somebody mentioned my name, and the mine reached out and said, would you be up for doing that? And I said, yes, absolutely. Yes. In 3 weeks, we put on probably the best haunted mine tour you've ever seen. We had a diver dressed up as a zombie in an underground lake with a breather on, who would, as the tour came through, come up out of the water, grab his wife, who was a plant, in the audience, and bring her down into the water. It was amazing. We raised $13,000 for my daughter's class. More importantly, I had carte blanche to shoot all 33 miles of tunnels, all the way to the tippy top of the conveyor belts. It was unbelievable.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And they're like, this place is yours. Do whatever you want. So if I ever wanted to do like a model shoot inside the mine, piece of cake, no problem.
That's beautiful, man. I do have a place for you. If we can talk more after the show, but just to throw it out here, it's called the American Treasure Tour Museum. Just went to it last weekend, and it's amazing. My wife and I toured it. It's out in Oaks, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But it's basically my office on like 10,000 pounds of steroids.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an old tire factory, and it's filled with stuff from carousels, like full carousels, and then like circus orchestra machines to antique toys. But they do have a photography. It's like a workshop.
Yep.
It's like $110 or something like that, and you go in there for 4 hours, and you're allowed to walk around the area that's only like, they have a tram car in the place that takes you around, but this workshop lets you walk around.
You get to go, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know if I actually get into it, because then, because if we could team up for that would
be awesome. I would love that.
I do have a question here.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's throw it up there. JD says, Paul, did your involvement with the paranormal, with alleged photographic evidence of ghosts, come after your professional career in photography? When or how did you first become aware of the intersection of photography and so-called paranormal investigation?
So I've always been a photographer. I was the typical Peter Parker in high school, shooting film, developing my own black and white film. I can still smell the chemicals. I'm fairly certain it's why I'm bald. Um, but I would say it came pretty quickly in my professional career. I'd always been a shooter. My first job was shooting in the resorts of the Poconos. I was a 14-year-old shooter in places like Monterey Lodge, Pennsylvania, the Poconos. I was shooting honeymooners in the heart-shaped tubs, which I probably saw more than any 14-year-old could ever see.
And popped in my head.
I learned what that job taught me was how to problem solve as a photographer. So note to my 14-year-old self, bubble bath does not generate as much bubbles as dish soap. So I would always carry some Dove with me because there is no amount of bubbles that can cover a 40-year-old overweight Italian man with his half his age new wife. You put the dish soap in. Anyway.
The whole bottle.
So ironically, all those places are now abandoned.
Yeah.
A colleague of mine, Rusty, he was actually on the news the other day. He did a whole book on all those resorts. So the places I got my start, he's now earning acclaim for in his career, which is kind of really cool. But cool. I've always been a photographer, but when I really seriously dove into it, which was right around 2008, 2009, and one of my first big projects was the Kanzari cards. And so the intersection of the sort of the start of my apex as a photography professional coincided with the paranormal. And I think it was really good. I think it was very fortuitous because the paranormal circles there's some really cool people. And I've managed to meet some really cool people in those circles. And they've been lifelong. They've been at least 11-year fans of mine. They are constant supporters. And I am really, really grateful for that group of people. And it was right at the start of when I really started making a name for myself, when Paul Michael Kane was just Paul Kane.
I've known you. Yeah, we met, I think, at Fort Mifflin. I think you're right. That's our first meeting. And then when we at the Lakeview Hotel, and then we've just been back and forth at the Lazaretto. There was an event where we were at.
And then you and I helped clean up out at Mount Moriah. You invited me out for that, which was phenomenal. We got some great shots out there. Yeah. I introduced you to a new friend.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk later.
I'm the gift that keeps on giving.
Anyway, that's behind the scenes.
Hear my wife chuckling in the background.
Yeah. Oh, and then it's been actually like I did. I've contacted you a few times over the years, especially like I did. A lot of people don't notice. I did some consultation work for a ghost hunting show.
That's awesome.
And at one point, I kind of knew what I was looking at, but I wasn't sure. So I called you up, and we did a Skype call, and I told you everything was going on. And it's nice when not only you can confirm the stuff that I thought was going on, but also you give me these ideas like, oh, what about this? What about that? I'm like, oh shit, I had no idea, because I grew up with film, but I never developed film. So I don't know the intricacies. I understand them now, but I don't have that practical experience. Yeah. So it's always nice to consult with someone that does.
And that's one of the things too I admire about you, is that rule number 2, it's okay to say I don't know, and then go find out. I'm a photographer, right? But if you ask me to shoot like astrophotography, where you get the star trails, I'm going to YouTube it, because I didn't grow up doing that.
Right.
Photography is the gift that keeps on giving. You cannot possibly know it all. And
I one of the examples of this about not knowing, I love fireworks. My wife loves fireworks. And so a situation, and this is a good segue, a situation came up where we were at Niagara Falls. First time, only time we've been there. Okay.
Which side? American or Canadian?
We were on the Canadian side.
Okay.
So we got the best view, and they had the lights on the falls, the colored lights, and then it was fireworks night. Great. I'm like, I want to get some really good shots. How do I do this? Oh, that's right. I have this box in my pack.
Yep.
And this has a fireworks challenge.
That is the most popular card in the deck. I've gotten more emails about that card thanking me for those settings. It was,
people that don't know, and if you're interested in photography, and this is a lot about photography today, but these are challenge cards that you did. Paul came up with these, and what's awesome about this is that not only are they challenges for like beginner to expert, these are challenges, but you give the settings. Oh shit, there it is right there.
Yep.
So you give the settings by which you took that photo.
Yep.
And I was like, it was like 5 minutes before the fireworks were going off. I brought out my pack and I'm like, there it is. There it is. Okay, what's he say? I can't read. I need glasses. Use my phone. Okay, there it is. Okay, I see it. Set my camera. I got the best fireworks photos of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was able to do that.
See, that makes me feel really good. Like I said, I've gotten more emails about that particular card than ever. But the one success of my photography that I did not anticipate was teaching. And I found that I really loved lecturing about photography. And, you could only do so much as a person. So I wanted to come up with a way to inspire photography on a global scale, right? So I came up with the idea for Lightbox, and I brought it to Kickstarter with the lofty goal of printing 1,000 decks. I wanted 1,000 of these to ship out to, my family and friends. Hopefully make a success of them. Well, the Kickstarter campaign was about, it was 30 days. And by the end of the campaign, I had to print 11,000 decks.
Damn.
And here we are 4 decks later. I have them around here somewhere, but you have them.
Don't worry, I got them.
We have the macro edition, the mobile edition, and the wedding edition. We shipped to 70 countries all over the world, all from my garage. It has taken off in a way that I just could not have anticipated. And that was 2015. So we're 6 years into this, and I haven't paid a stitch of advertising for these things. It's all social media.
That's awesome.
It's all like photography blogs picking up news on it. And there have been imitators. We launched the mobile deck at the same time a German company launched the bigger picture iPhone deck. We went head to head on Kickstarter. I funded in 6 hours. They canceled their campaign. They were not getting anything. And I felt really bad for about a minute. No, 30 seconds.
Good.
But and the product they were selling it was inferior. I get it. How many times you see a gas station go up on the corner and then right across the street, another gas station goes up.
Right.
That stuff happens. But if you're going to try to do the same product, do it better. And it wasn't better.
Exactly.
It was not better. So they still have legs to this day. I haven't done a deck in probably 3 years, and they're still going strong. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
The reason I'm putting a link in the chat room now for your website, specifically the Lightbox page, but the idea behind this is like the reason, like when I got them, I promoted them, and like I tell everyone that I meet, if they want to learn more, get these freaking cards because it's simple. It's not like, oh, you got to go to class and sit in front of a teacher if you don't. I mean, if you want to do that, that's great. I do recommend that. But if you're out in the field and you're just like a casual hobbyist, especially for ghost hunters, Bigfoot hunters, UFO hunters, pick up these cards because they describe to you different situations, the different settings, what can happen, what can't happen, and it gives you a better sense of how to use your equipment.
Yep.
Take that however you want, you dirty-minded people, but you need to handle your equipment properly.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm a master at handling my. Never mind.
There you go. And I mean, it really is good. I've learned a lot from this, and awesome. I mean, I say it all the time, but like, dude, I've learned a lot from you about photography, about how light works, how the settings on my camera work. If I screw with this setting, what's going to happen? Yeah. And just doing this and going by the cards is great. Actually, and this is going to sound weird at first, but actually in a field at an abandoned building, laying in a field next to you, shooting next to you is actually like, it's one of those moments where it's like, oh, this is so fucking cool. This is so cool because I mean to be I'm kissing your ass. I totally idolize you. All right, because it was really cool actually having that chance.
What I just gave this speech this past week because I love photography. You love photography, and here's the cool thing: we're artists, right? Photography is an art. It's a more technical art, but it's an art nonetheless. And here's the cool thing. We're not painting with a pencil or a brush. We're not drawing with a pencil. Right. We're painting with light. And that's a superpower. That sounds so badass.
Yeah.
And when I say that to my students this week, you could just see it dawn on them that light is our medium. Mm-hmm. You know, our canvas, our pixels, but light is our medium, and we're learning how to bend and shape and focus light. It sounds so damn cool.
It's really it is the basis of what
Helena says, a scientific art. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, it's when it comes to, like, you do photography on a professional basis. I do it mostly for like explaining photos and debunking. That's basically the way to put it. But yes, understanding how light works is essential. Yeah. And that's why I'm promoting. It's not like a commercial for your products. This is a learning experience because there are so many ghost hunters and UFO hunters and there's paranormal investigators. Let's just the whole blanket statement here. Paranormal investigators that have no fucking clue how to operate their camera or how to understand and interpret the photos that come from their camera.
Now, I'm betting, Kenny, knowing you, if we blindfolded you, you can work every dial and every button on your camera.
Yes.
And that's what I recommend to every paranormal investigator is to learn, any photographer really, is to learn how to work your camera. To as painful as it can be, read the manual, then throw it out, then play with the camera. You know, what does this button do? What does that do? Oh, this is what this does. Okay, so this is what I can use that for in that situation. You know, these are highly technical light collecting devices. And the worst thing you can do is just set it to auto and start firing away.
Right.
You're going to get...
Go ahead.
You're just going to get whatever the camera sees. And that...
Right. You're going to get the basic tourist picture.
Right. The camera is a piece of equipment. You have to tell it what to do. As soon as you start letting the camera make the decisions, you're not collecting evidence. You're taking a tourist picture.
Yeah. And that's one of the things man, there's 2 points I want to touch on that. Of all you just said. One is read the manual. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that because there are so many people that don't.
No.
And it's it's mind-boggling to me because most manuals that I've come across actually address the well-known orbs.
Yeah.
It actually talks
Right?
about them and
There's
says,
little diagrams of them.
yes, it tells you exactly what's going on and why you get them and how to avoid them.
Yeah.
So when people bring me pictures and they're showing me orbs, like that's the first thought in my head. You didn't read the manual.
Yeah.
You didn't read the manual that came with your camera. They're
Yeah.
telling you what's going on, but you didn't bother. And the second thing is a tip that, I mean, this is for photography in general, is something that I learned from you. And we had a conversation, and you told me not to be a tourist. And like I forget what we were doing. I think we were still at the Lazaretto. I think it was that day, or one of the days we were at the Lazaretto and taking photos. And you're like, "Don't be a tourist." And it was the same. Like, oh, I stay in here. I'm standing up, eye level. Take a picture. That's a tourist photo. Don't take a tourist photo. And you're like, get down on the ground, get up on the ladder. Yeah. And like, even my wife can attest to it. Like sometimes I remember being in Eastern State Penitentiary and I crawled around on the floor. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Paul said nothing to do, be a tourist.
That's the difference between taking a picture and crafting an image.
Yeah.
You put thought into it. What's it going to look like from down here? What's it going to look like from up here? What if I throw some dust at this window?
Yeah.
Is it going to catch the light? You know, those are all great tips. Those are all great tips. Don't shoot from where you're standing.
Right.
You immediately, if you kneel down, you immediately open up a whole new world.
Yeah.
And learn your camera.
I don't have, this is not a question, but it's a big statement. But JD usually gives us pretty good things to talk about. I'll never understand orbs. When I was a kid, my grandmother was always taking pictures. She always carried around a cheap click camera, and her photos always had orbs. I just always assumed it was because the picture quality was crap. It was dust. I never would have thought there was anything supernatural about orbs.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, we talked about this. A lot of the paranormal investigators go in knowing they're going to catch a ghost. And that's the same thing with the orbs. When a simple explanation is the easiest explanation. So how do you avoid an orb?
This is a good question. Let's explore this.
Okay. So I had talked about this earlier. Take your camera out of auto, because in auto, your camera is going to meter your scene, which is dark, right? Most paranormal investigators are done in the dark or limited or low light. If your camera's on auto, or if you have a cheap point and shoot camera with a flash that is an inch away from your lens, two things are going to happen. In auto, it's going to turn the exposure compensation of the flash all the way up because it's really dark. Second thing is going to happen. It's going to open the aperture of the lens as wide as it will go, so it will catch as much light. Now that seriously narrows your depth of field. Depth of field is this. If you focus on the point of my nose with an f11, right? Everything from the tip of my nose to the back of my ears to the back of the wall is going to be in focus, right? When you that's a mid-range f-stop. When you open, the number goes down. So if you open to f2.8, f1.4, which some of these point and shoots can do, you're letting a lot of light in. Now, if you're focused on the tip of my nose, my eyes are going to start blurring at 2.8, that's a short depth of field. That's a great portrait lens. But if you're doing paranormal investigation, you do not want to shoot at 2.8. You want to get your camera out of auto, because it's going to say, I need as much light in as possible, giving you far less depth of field. When you go into, what I would recommend on most ghost hunts or UFO sites is picking a mid-range f-stop. If you have a DSLR, which I can't believe I don't have one within range, you're going to want to go into aperture priority mode, which is the A, on the camera. All right, that lets you pick the f-stop, right? Then the camera will go into the heavy lifting on the shutter speed. But you have to be aware of what the shutter speed is, because if it's too slow, you're going to get streaks that are ghosts moving.
We'll get into that. Somebody put a question up. We can get into that next.
So you want a mid-range f-stop, and you want to flash. You definitely want to flash because you want to freeze action. Right. But what that mid-range f-stop will do is eliminate any orbs, because the orbs are created by light bouncing off of close objects or objects that are out of the focal range, way in the back. Right. And it becomes a big orb. Sometimes you can explain there's little lines in the orbs, and that's the blades of the aperture, but they won't hear that. Right. They will not hear that. So that would be my best advice, is to get the camera out of auto, shoot in aperture priority mode. Try your best to have, if you have a DSLR, do the flash up on top, not the little pop-up flash. Right. Get a flash on the hot shoe, and then throw that light as far as you can, because the light is what's doing the orbs every time. Every time.
That's great. So, like, going back to our origin story, the nice old lady that had taken pictures of the streetlights, they were out of focus. She was focused on something that was very near her, but because these streetlights were way in the distance, they were out of focus. They were beyond the depth of field. So
the Japanese have a term for that. It's called bokeh.
Bokeh, yeah.
Bokeh, I think. Have some vodka.
How's that vodka?
But it's a term for what is out of focus, the art of out of focus, and you want that. You want bokeh in your portraits.
Like portrait, it makes it look beautiful.
See the Christmas lights behind me?
Yes.
Can you see pinpoints, or do you see little orbs?
I see the little orbs.
Because they are out of the focal range of this little mini camera. And yes, I have my tree up. Don't judge.
Whatever.
But it's out of the focal range of this little web camera, and you see orbs. I can see little pinpricks of light when I turn around, but and you want that in portraiture, especially like at Christmas time. You can do these great portraits of people in front of their trees, as long as they're a bit away from the tree, and you get these beautiful orbs. They're not spirits; they're Christmas lights.
I want to just give an example here so people know exactly what you're talking about. This is a quick example. There you go.
That's perfect. That's called bokeh.
Right there.
B-O-K-E-A, and I spelled it right.
There you go. So your subject is in perfect focus, beautiful focus, but all of the lights here, these are your orbs. Look at these. These are orbs.
And doesn't each color symbolize something in the paranormal world?
Yes.
Angry spirits and...
Let me get this out of the way, because you're covered by my jug of tea. So yeah, there are still groups, and honestly, still to this day, there are groups out there that have a color chart, and I swear to whatever entity you believe in that it's based off the mood ring.
Oh my God, that's great.
That's what it is, and then they just replaced mood ring with orb. And it tells you, like, the colors, like red is angry and pink is love and some green is envy, shit like that. So yeah, that particular picture would be something that would instill, like, how there's different colors of orbs, and they're transparent. So obviously these are angry orbs because they're red and shit.
I'm going to send you, I have to show you. So I love bokeh. I use it all the time in my creative portraiture. And I'm not going to be able to find this in time, I know. But when you explain to the people who are looking for spiritual reasoning behind the orbs, that it is a photographic technique that I actually do on purpose, they just don't hear it. They don't want to hear it a lot of times. and I'm not gonna be able to find it. I wanted to show you a portrait.
Yeah,
That
I get it. And if most of the ghost hunters, and ghost hunters are people that I tend to pick on because they're the ones I associate the most with. But paranormal enthusiasts usually keep their cameras on auto.
Which, yeah, that is the worst thing in the world.
So, yes, exactly. If you're out there looking for something, I mean, I don't keep my camera on auto. I used to, yes, when I started, because I was still learning it. But
and that's the thing. I tell people all the time, auto's fine if you're learning how to compose, because that's what auto is for. You're learning the rule of thirds, the golden ratio. Auto is great for that. One lady said, "You're going to hate me. I shoot in auto." I'm like, no, I don't. That's where everybody should start. So you know how to frame a photo. But once you start making, here we go. I'm going to send this to you. Can you share this?
Actually, you should have a button on the bottom of the screen that says share screen.
Okay. Let me pull.
Right below us.
I
so
see
click
it.
that.
Share.
And hopefully you're not frozen completely. There you go. I see you a little bit. Maybe you shouldn't share. All right, there you are.
So I sent it to you via Messenger. If you want to share that picture.
All right, let me see here. Let me bring it up. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Right?
Oh wow, that's beautiful. I love that shot. Look at that beautiful thing.
Is that the most adorable kid you've ever seen?
Let me take the banner off of you. Wow, that is beautiful. Yes.
So she's either the most spiritual person I've ever met, or that's my Christmas tree right behind it.
That's awesome. I love it.
Look at those eyes. Good Lord.
So this is a perfect example because you can see that you have different intensities.
Yeah, you can see the depth in them.
Right.
There's one in front, one in back.
You can definitely see they overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Like right here, they overlap. You can actually see all the shapes, the distinctions between the shapes going through each other. But you can see how some, like right here, these are extremely faint, almost non-existent. There's one right here. I don't know if you guys can see it at home, but very, very faint compared to very, very bright.
Here's the interesting thing. These are man-made bokeh. I just sent you one that is naturally made bokeh.
Wow.
Take a guess what those are.
So I would look at no.
These are naturally made. Look at what's on the tree.
I see ice and stuff. So are these reflections of light off of ice?
Off of snowflakes.
All right, I was close enough. Wow.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So what were you shooting a pretty fast shutter speed?
This was shot at f1.4, probably about I would say 500th of a second.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's that f1.4, which is a very fast lens. What they call fast, when they say a fast lens, it means how fast the light gets to your sensor.
Yeah.
So this is a very fast lens. It's a very expensive lens, but you see why. Look at just look at what it captures.
And this is perfect. I mean, this shows you if you're in a abandoned building or a haunted location and you take a picture of someone or something, maybe like a haunted object that's right in front of you. But I mean, you could have things maybe 2-3 feet away or more,
or as close as 2 inches away from the lens.
Right. And I think that's a big problem. Like going beyond is sometimes like with this, you can see that the bokeh orbs are behind.
Yes.
The branch. But oftentimes you see it. Yeah.
Because I'm under something when I'm shooting this. This is under an overhang off of my house, and I'm shooting straight on. So all that is behind. And it's all natural. and I did it on purpose. It didn't happen by accident. This was by design. But if you didn't intend this, you would be like, and if you were inclined to think about orbs being spirits, you'd be like, holy cow, or holy orbs.
Right.
Look what I captured.
And depending on the lighting situation and what you're focusing on, if you're in auto, you have no idea what's going to happen, and you could get something close to this.
Yeah.
That would come up in any kind of location and potentially give you these anomalies, which gets us into Helena's question, which is, can camera settings be manipulated to get abnormalities to show up? So
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I do it all the time. It's a very pleasing background, especially if you have a busy background like a city street with all the stuff going on. If you manipulate your f-stop to the widest aperture it can go, which on a consumer grade camera is probably about 3.5. If you buy a specialty lens, 2.8, 1.4, there's a lens out there that shoots a 0.9, but it's like a $6,000 lens, and I have a kid and a mortgage. I can't.
Yeah.
Although I get, it's funny. This was a huge, I got contacted by a lens rental place that had been contacted by Leica, which is Leica and Hasselblad are like the Aston Martins of the camera world. They're like really high-end cameras. And they were looking for 25 photographers to test a new lens, an Otis 1.0 wide angle lens. And it was like an $8,000 lens. And here's the crazy part. The lens was not autofocus. You had to focus this $8,000 lens all by yourself.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was the sexiest lens I've ever seen. But
you're talking to a true photography nerd when they refer to a lens as sexy.
But I shot, and this is in my new book here, I shot a number of things. I promptly took it to an abandoned location. I went to a train graveyard, which is really cool. Oh, nice. But I shot this. It's a still life with my wife's silver baby spoon and some blueberries on a butcher block table. And in the print, it looks like you could pick up those blueberries.
Put that up again.
Oh, yeah. It is absolutely ridiculous.
There you go. Oh, that is beautiful.
And just, look at the shadow. There we go. It is nice and soft. And it's like maybe a quarter of an inch away from the butcher block.
Wow. That's awesome. That is really cool.
But yeah, that was a huge, I was one of only 25 photographers to get to play with that lens before it went out on the market. So I had to fill out like a big review kind of thing. I had to analyze it and what were its strengths, what were its weaknesses. And of course I couldn't mention, no, I had to send it back.
What? That's bullshit.
That was a sad day. They even paid for the shipping back too.
So
but I did photograph myself with the lens because
damn
it's
right.
a lens. Right?
Yeah. So something else you can do to manipulate the settings is basically going old school with like spirit photography is long exposure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this is something that you can do manually or you can do by accident, which the most common way that I found through observing ghost hunters is to turn the flash off.
That's
so what can you tell us if you're in if you're at a ghost hunt, dark environment, because for some reason ghost hunters love the dark.
The dark, yeah.
And you turn the flash off, what's going on?
Your sensor is picking up motion, right? It's not a video camera, but it is picking up motion across its field of view. So what I'm doing with my hands, if we slowed that all the way down, you'd see this really cool trail around my hands. And that's all that's happening is you're capturing motion blur. because you don't have the flash on. If you're not using your flash, you're taking tourist pictures. You're not capturing evidence because you're losing control when you turn your flash off. Science is all about control, all about exacting measurable
data.
Yeah. And if you turn off a flash, you're losing a huge part of it. Huge. And I mean, you could just see in the EXIF or metadata that the flash didn't go off. So if you're presenting us with evidence and we say, can we see the metadata? And they say no, that's a red flag right there. It's a huge
Absolutely.
So look at it. Yep.
So this is something. And what is this? I know what this is, but what is this?
This is light painting. I'm trying to find my own. This is it a lightsaber? Did you use a lightsaber?
No. I just picked this off the internet. So I didn't use my own. I do have those though, because I'm a total nerd. I do have a lightsaber long exposure.
Mine's orange. It's my favorite color.
Oh, I love it. I have mine.
But yeah. We are we going to measure lightsabers now?
There we go.
I don't know if I can get to mine.
We're gonna have lightsabers on the show. This is the first time we're gonna have lights. Oh shit! I gotta get the other one now. All right, everyone's gonna be like, "What the hell is going on here?"
Okay. Please have battery. Please.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it gorgeous?
I love it. Oh my god.
So
this
is yours
always
combat
taking a
rated?
turn. What?
Is yours combat rated?
No.
Like, can you fight with it?
No. These are the master replicas. I have Vader's.
Yep.
I have Vader's original, and I have Anakin's.
So this is a custom. Yeah, this is not based on any other one, but I was able to customize the light, and there's an Allen screw on two sides
for the blade,
so you can actually like really go to town with this thing. But,
so I used to have Luke's original master replica, but that got destroyed.
Good man.
Yeah.
Can we take a second to talk about The Mandalorian? Have you seen it?
Have I seen it? Hell yeah.
Holy cow.
Holy crap. Yeah. At
I
the end,
I cried.
I cried.
I had a tear.
I totally cried. I did. I actually did. There's another podcast that I do once in a while called Geeks and Ghosts. I think you were on it.
Yeah, I was on that. Yep.
We did a show a couple weeks ago, right after the season finale, and I mean, yeah, it was a almost a tear-filled episode.
So, everyone talks about The Mandalorian, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I got everybody beat because I actually worked on an official Star Wars poster for Lucasfilm.
Fucker. God damn it.
I got invited out to the ranch. I met Dave Filoni, which was an absolute thrill. I did not meet George. He was in his office, which was right above us. But what makes me a creative professional is Star Wars. I am not shy about that at all. And it has nothing to do with lightsabers and or maybe just a little bit. But when I was a kid, I was a perfect age for Star Wars. I was like 5.
Right.
And when that movie came out, there was also documentaries about how the movie was made. And the second I saw a shirtless man in way too short of shorts in the back of a pickup truck riding alongside the Death Star trench,
Oh my God.
like, wait a minute, you could do this for a living? And that's what started me on this journey, this creative professional journey. And you
know what? There's a nerd moment here because I know the exact scene you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was at the right place at the right time. And when they announced the prequels 2007 were the prequels announced. I think that was it. Yeah, because 2009 was episode 1.
All right, I'm gonna check and make sure because I don't remember. It's been so long.
No. 1999 was episode 1 because I got married that year and we saw episode 1 on our honeymoon.
99, yes.
So when those prequels were announced, I made a vow to myself that by the end of the prequel trilogy, I will have worked for Lucasfilm. I will have my name somehow associated in some way with the brand. And by Revenge of the Sith, I did this poster with my buddy Matt Bush. What we did was he was the original painter. Let me get this here. He was the original painter on the poster.
Right.
I did all the typography that you see on there from the top to the bottom, but then Lucasfilm had an issue with Grievous's lightsaber.
Right.
So I had to repaint digitally in Photoshop the entire center of the poster.
Wow.
And one of the magazines I grew up reading, Art Scene International, did a big, like, multi-page spread on the making of this thing. And sure enough, a magazine that I grew up reading. There's me.
Yeah.
Right
there you go. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
Which was, I mean, and I got invited out to the ranch. I got pictures of me with the original R2. Oh my God. I had dinner.
All right. Stop. I'm so freaking jealous.
That's another show.
That's a different show that I do. Damn it! Oh, I'm so jealous. I hate you.
Yeah, it's been a lifelong passion, and now with the sequel trilogies, which I have I have a love-hate with the prequels and a love-hate with the sequels, but The Mandalorian, holy cow,
really good show.
I think John and Dave, they grew up with this stuff right around the same time I did, and they really have a love for it.
Right.
And not to say J.J. Abrams doesn't, but
yeah,
I don't know. The Mandalorian was just a return to the original trilogy that
it really it kind of reminded you of Rogue One.
Yes.
And I don't want to get too off topic.
All right, yes, guys.
We'll get into this.
There's ghosts in Star Wars, right? There's Force ghosts.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I actually wrote up a review of it. I did it for a comics magazine. I did a skepticism piece
that's awesome.
on the ghost of Luke and his interactions with the physical world and stuff. So really cool, actually, piece. But I mean, this is fun to talk about. I love talking about this stuff, but it also shows like this is not. I do a lot of photography analysis with this kind of stuff, but it's also nice to show. Like, this is your background. This is what you do for a living. So when it comes to analyzing photos or looking at photos and giving tips about how to take photos and what happens when you do shit wrong or take the tourist photo, it's coming not from somebody that's, a diehard skeptic. It's coming from a professional photographer, this is great. I love this kind of stuff. And I think everyone's appreciating the information that you're giving.
That's awesome.
I do have a question. I want to bring it up here.
Okay.
JD's got us a good question here. If someone wanted to fake something, Paul, do you think more simple or I don't know what that is. Archaic methods have more of a chance of fooling even experienced photographers than more modern techniques simply because of lack of experience or familiarity? Like, for example, could someone fool more people with something like the Connelling fairies than just long exposures and orbs?
Well, I think if you're going to try to fool me, I would go old school, because if there's Photoshop trickery, I'm going to call you on it. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find the pixel pushing, and it's super easy to do that. Going old school with long exposures and those sort of techniques, those old school techniques where you get it in camera will give me more pause in my analyzing that image. But something more experienced, like with Photoshop, it's going to be very easy to see.
Yeah.
Kenny, do you use Photoshop
Yes.
at all?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I would, if you're going to try to fake something, which, I mean, Kenny, how many times have you called out a fake?
Every freaking day of my life. For the last, like, I don't know, almost like 15, 20 years. Yes. Yeah. It's almost every day.
Yeah. It is amazing when people bring fake stuff to me and I'm like, this is fake and here's why. And then I do the same thing in Photoshop. They just fight you on it. Right. It's like a toddler getting caught in a lie and they're just going to own it. They're going to own the hell out of it. Right. But like something old school will give me pause. I'll have to really reach back and try to figure it out.
Yeah. Because it
I'm not going to lie. Those I love. I love those kinds of challenges. When I see something, and one of my favorite ones was a picture of two children in a window. All right. And it was an abandoned place. And this woman shot a picture of these kids. And every window but this one seemed to be boarded up. Well, this one was boarded up too, but it was a water stain that happened to be in the vague shape of two people. And once she sent me not a Facebook Messenger compressed image, but the actual full res image, I was able to see it very clearly. But I love that. I love finding she wasn't faking anything, but it's that kind of evidence that can easily trip up somebody. So yeah, if you're going to Photoshop it, you're going to have to really go like Conjuring level trickery.
And I want to say that I think, at least from my experience, that if you're going to go to a professional and or reputable photographer for an opinion, you're going to get not only their opinion, but if they're not sure, they're going to consult other photographers.
Yeah. I am not afraid to say I do not know what that is. Right. I have no idea. And I have no problem taking it to you or anybody else to get, because I have, as I like to think, as vast as my knowledge is, in the realm of photography, it's a sliver. Mm-hmm. You know, there's forensic photography. There is like, there's ultralight, infrared photography. There's like all sorts of photography I don't know about. And I don't need to know about it because it's not my specialty, but I won't hesitate to go to these people or that person and help me figure out what I'm looking at.
Right.
And I love that you do that. Yeah.
You have to. I mean, and then, I mean, I'm going to vaguely touch on something. We can't reveal, so this is a hint to you. We can't reveal exactly what we were talking about, but the last time we talked, it was concerning some old photographs, film photography. And we there were some questions about it, and we spent at least a good hour.
Yeah, at least.
At least. Going through just two pictures, two prints, and looking at the details and going back and forth. And it was just nice because you can bounce off. Not only do you bounce ideas off, like, oh, I see this. Do you see that on this corner or on this side? But then you're like, oh, but look at this person over here. Look at the shadow here. But then compared to this person, the shadow, it's this and that. And I think that's a mark of a good photographer when you're asking for opinion. You're not just giving, okay, it's just not a ghost. No, we're looking at all the details.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff out there to look at. There's a lot of information in the photograph that a good photographer can pick out.
Right. Almost immediately.
Yeah. Yes.
And then, our conversation, where we journeyed through the image, we started finding things that I didn't see and you saw, and then I saw that you didn't see. And
Right.
it's that conversation that's for me, that gets me going. I love that kind of stuff.
That's
and
awesome. I came down. I actually walked. I got done with our call, and I walked downstairs, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, "Oh, we were totally geeking out. We were geeking out on over photographs. That was great. It was so much fun." But there's a lot. I know I can't give you too many. I can't give the viewers too many
Right.
details because it's ongoing investigation. But just an hour conversation between two people that do photography, and you do it a lot more than I do. You have a lot more experience, but going back and forth and looking at details and spending a good hour again on two photographs, just two. That's a full hour, and I know it was more than an hour, but
yeah, no.
That's the kind of time that you have to put into this sometimes to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And this was what you were talking about. This is old school. This is film photography, in-camera stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
There was no Photoshop involved that we could see. And on that, there actually is a question from John. John asks, what's a good starting place to learn how to spot Photoshop trickery?
Photoshop itself.
Yeah.
If you open a file in Photoshop, there are blending modes that you can run the image through where you can actually see where the pixels were moved. So as a photographer, I use two programs. I primarily use Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop. All right. Lightroom is a non-destructive global image editing suite. Okay. That means we're not moving pixels. We're applying filters. We're dodging and burning just like we did in the darkroom. Photoshop is a sledgehammer. It is you're chipping away at pixels, moving them, rearranging them, recoloring them, desaturating, all sorts of things. And in Photoshop, you can see all of that through blending modes. There's a blending mode called difference. And you could just see where the tools of Photoshop. I actually have Photoshop open right now behind you. There are tools that you can use to severely move pixels, and it leaves a trail. It leaves evidence. So, I mean, the best place to start is the source, Photoshop. It's a very good forensic photographers, police crime photos. They're all processed using Photoshop because there are tools for evidence collecting inside of Photoshop. It's not just a photo editing suite. I use it every day for graphic design, for photos. It's an amazing tool, and now it's cheaper than ever. It's as cheap as it's ever been. Right. And I mean, the capabilities of it are astonishing, absolutely astonishing. But that's where I would start is actually getting into Photoshop. You can also, I mean, YouTube is a great resource for YouTube tutorials and such. But just like every trade, just like every art, people use it differently. So you really have to, just like your news, get news sources from every different place, get your training from all sorts of different places. So you're not focusing on one way or the other, but you're getting a nice broad spectrum of learning. But yeah, I would say jump right in. Photoshop is your best bet to spot Photoshop trickery.
Right. One of the things I always ask for is an original copy of an image, especially because now pretty much everything is digital. There's very little film that I deal with, but once in a while I do, but mostly digital. And I always ask for an original copy because I want that XF file.
Yep, that metadata is.
Can you explain some of that for everyone?
If you get I'm betting the majority of the files you get are JPEGs or TIFFs.
Right.
So as a professional, I shoot in RAW. So that's the best file to get because a JPEG will. So how I equate the two, You can shoot RAW or JPEG. Shooting JPEG is like taking your film to CBS. CBS processes your film. JPEG is doing the same thing. It's popping the color. It's processing your image. RAW is you in the darkroom. It's a very tonally flat image, and it requires you to process, but it collects as much detail as possible. In other words, as a photographer, if I shot a sunset in RAW and I kind of overexposed the highlights, I can pull some of that detail back because the file itself collected all the detail that's in there. You can't do that with JPEG. So if you're collecting evidence and you're shooting with a DSLR, I would highly recommend going to RAW. It's going to make it hard to send to people until you convert it to a JPEG. But if you convert it to a JPEG, you can have it convert with no editing at all. So you're getting the actual raw image.
Okay.
But yeah.
That gives us more to work with.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know you can open RAW since you have Photoshop. Photoshop comes with what's called Camera Raw as a plugin. Right. It's a standalone also, and you can open any raw image. And that's the best. That is the ideal photo evidence collection right there is the RAW.
Yeah.
And every camera, most cameras do it. Point and shoots won't.
Right.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, if you're collecting evidence and you're using a point and shoot, it's time to up your game.
Up your game. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well, you know what? I think most people now, like what I've seen the compact cameras pretty much go out of style.
Yeah.
And people were using either DSLRs or their phones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So the phone is the popular choice now because it's easy. They already have it. They don't have to bring something else. But there's limitations with that. Lots of limitations.
Lots of limitations. I'm not a gear snob by any means, especially for creative photography. My phone is my go-to camera. I always say the best camera you have is the one you have with you, whether it's your DSLR or your phone.
You even have a
mobile edition, which is it's terribly outdated. Just some of them are gone. Some of them
you need to work on that shit, Paul.
But yeah, the camera phone is great. But what sucks on it is the flash. That it's not even a flash. It is the slowest light possible.
Right.
And even the best quality, the iPhone 12 shoots like a 16 megapixel. It's still not the same as a 16 megapixel on a nice, even a crop sensor is better than what's on the phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
As soon as you zoom in, you can see the difference.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as I open a photo, I'm like, all right, this was taken on a phone. Yeah. I mean, you can see it almost slaps you in the face. I mean, they're not bad pictures, but yeah, there's a difference. And you pick it up. And I think for the most part, you have to be a photographer to notice sometimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, granted, yeah, you can see it if you look at it for a couple minutes, but sometimes as soon as they open, I'm like, no, that was taken with a phone.
Yeah.
All right.
And now, of course, there's all these ghost photo apps. And how many times have you brought evidence?
Oh my God. At least once a week, I get some poor parent that's like, my daughter, and you know what? I'm going to do a survey because most of the time it's a daughter. I don't know what the deal is, but it's a daughter that is like, oh shit, Dad, look at this picture. And the dad sends me the picture and says, my daughter took this and now I'm worried about my house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you got a phone app. Your daughter's playing a trick on you. And usually the first response is, my daughter would never lie to me.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, you have a child. They always lie to you.
Yeah. Yep.
They will lie to you. So, yeah. And then they get pissed off when I send them a photo with the same exact ghost, like sitting in the palm of my hand.
Same exact, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Go ahead. You got something else?
Yeah, I did want to ask you something because I had an experience myself.
Oh.
Have you met a paranormal, somebody famous in the paranormal world. Have you met somebody in the paranormal world that left you like gobsmacked?
Like, as in, like, I'm like, wow, you're so awesome, or wow, I can't believe those words came out of your mouth, and you
No,
think
that seemed very genuine and that you connected with.
so. That's an interesting question, because I think the majority of the people that I interact with are genuine.
Okay. They believe they're
Um,
genuine.
I believe that they're genuine. They seem genuine to me. They genuinely they believe what they believe, and what they believe happened or they experienced was real, and it was real to them. And I believe that they did have some kind of experience, whether it's paranormal. I don't think so, but I think most of them, even though they had an experience, I don't think they went the necessary steps to figure out what was going on,
Okay.
or took the time at the time to investigate it properly. Um, it,
So,
if we're talking more like celebrity status kind
yeah.
of thing,
Yep.
no, absolutely not.
So,
There's been, I mean, I'm good friends with people, and I mean, you might be surprised, and some people might be surprised, but I'm actually pretty decent friends with Jason Hawes.
okay.
I've talked to him on the phone a few times, a lot of times. This past year, we actually talked on the phone quite a few times. I think he's genuine. I think he really believes what he's doing. There's a lot of flaws with stuff that he does on television, and that his crew does. But I don't think he's necessarily faking it, or in this case, I think when he does find out someone's faking it, I think he takes action, which we've seen happen. But yeah, I mean, celebrity status. There's. I'm trying to think if there's anyone I've met that's like a celebrity, quote unquote, that's really like, you're pretty okay. I think they're all nice people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I definitely hang out with them. I mean, I hang out with most of the if they're at a party, I don't give a shit whether you're a celebrity or a quote unquote nobody. We're hanging out. If you have rum, I am your best friend. So I will hang out with you. We will dance, party, and sing, karaoke, whatever. But I don't think there's anyone that's really like, stop me like, oh shit.
So
that's somebody.
I have a story, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, you met a friend of mine. His name was Dave. He was a psychic. Do you remember Dave the psychic? Buzzhead, very frustrating. So he tried to make it as a psychic, and he had some degree of success.
This is not the guy that came to the cemetery, right?
No.
Right.
It's a whole other issue right there.
I hope he's watching.
I think he came with me to Fort Mifflin one time when you were there.
Okay.
But so he was trying to make it as a psychic, and he had some degree of success. He was always trying to read me, and I kept shutting him down. I'm like, please don't do that. I don't need that. He did a reading for my wife. My wife was very convinced. But he called me up one day and he said, "You're coming with me to Connecticut. We're leaving like in an hour. I'm picking you up and we're going to Connecticut." I'm like, "Okay, where are we going?" We went to a lecture at Lorraine Warren's house. And we got there late, and there were about 15 people there. And we get there, and the only two seats left are right up front. And I'm like, oh my And I'm really uncomfortable because I'm a skeptic, right? I'm a open-minded skeptic, but so we walk in, and her son-in-law was introducing her as we walked in, and she came out, and we got a tour of the museum and everything, but she sat down and started talking to me, like two eyes right into my eyes, and I can see David in my periphery. He's looking at me, he's looking at her, he's looking at me, he's looking at her, and I'm like, I'm not looking away. I am not looking away from this lady. She talked to me the entire night, and then we all went to a cemetery and did some investigating, and I went to a dinner, and she and him talked for like a half an hour, but it left me completely gobsmacked. I was like, I was blown away by her. I barely talked to her, but while she was talking to the audience, she was just focused right on me, and it was insane. It was absolutely insane. I don't know what it was about it. She was such a sweet little old lady, and the museum, for whatever was in there, it was very cool to photograph. I got to photograph the Annabelle Lee doll, and all. The Annabelle Lee doll was a Raggedy Ann doll.
Right.
And I got to photograph that, and just a whole bunch of stuff inside that museum. But that whole experience left me, it's just like, of everybody, she was completely focused on me. And that is as a public speaker, that is a tool in the public speaking toolkit, is to focus on somebody.
Yeah.
But that she picked me, and you see her on all these shows and the movies and stuff. And I was like, ooh, what the hell's going on here? That was my story about being gobsmacked by a paranormal celebrity.
If you talk about like Comic-Cons, then yeah, I could totally give you examples where I was like that, where somebody would talk to me, I'm like,
Billy D. Williams bumped into Heather, my wife, at a con, grabbed her by the elbows. He's in like top to bottom white fedora hat on, and he's like, "Excuse me, little lady," and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Oh my god! Wow, yeah, I've never had that. I think it's hard for me to have some kind of moment like that, because usually when I go to conferences, I do the whole stalker thing, my background check. So I look at every guest, I look at every vendor, and I already know who's going to be there, and I know their background, so I understand who I'm dealing with. Just in case. Go ahead.
That would play into it, because I had zero notice on this. He literally picked me up, and we went right there. And of course, you see this person on TV or in the movies or documentaries, and the fact that she just like right on me, it was just, I was like really weirded out.
Yeah,
being a ward and a professor, who else would she look at, right?
Right. And that's something, yeah. I mean, you learn that because every time I've done lectures, there's usually I pick out 3 people.
Yeah, so you can
like each side and in the middle, somebody that I can focus on when I'm talking. So it looks like I'm scanning the room. I'm paying attention to everything, and there's usually 3 people that I pick on. That's what I say, pick on.
Yeah, sure.
Where it's like, all right, when I'm going to look on this side of the room, I'm looking at you.
Yep.
You're my guy. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't usually focus on one person though.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was just so weird.
So I do have a question here.
Okay.
Let's see. Bob wants to know, have you ever analyzed cryptid photos? And do you have any stories about that? So cryptids, pretty much any kind of monsters like Bigfoot, Loch Ness, Jersey Devil.
Jersey Devil. So I did a book for Weird New Jersey.
We got segue into it.
Yeah. So this is on its way to you. The mail has been terribly slow.
Yes, I noticed.
And this is my daughter on the cover. So I had her sign the front.
Oh, that's so cool.
I just signed the insides. Awesome. So in here, there are several cryptids. There is the Pigman of, I can't remember. This was like probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
Where's the Pigman from? There's that artist rendition, we'll say, but nobody's actually caught him on Terrifying Travels. This is it. So these are all like user submitted stories. So
Okay.
they're not like professional.
This is Weird New Jersey, right?
Yeah. Yep. Weird New Jersey
yeah.
magazine. The cool thing is, she is the only human being on the cover of a Weird New Jersey magazine. They usually do some. They usually have a face, but it's usually a sculpture or something.
Yeah.
And it's the only issue of Weird New Jersey that is completely sold out, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. I've been collecting them for years. I'm an avid fan. I love Weird New Jersey, and it's even though some of the stories are, they're as you said, they're user submitted, so they're reader submitted. So it's like, okay.
So it's a pig woman. I got my gender wrong. It's a pig woman, and she is on Sterling Road. But I honestly, I've never had to analyze a cryptid. That's as close as I got. And in Jersey, there's a lot of them. There's a Jersey Devil. There's a pig woman. There's something on Clinton Road, which for some reason my daughter will not let me take her to. I want to do this road. It's like the most haunted house or haunted road in New Jersey, and she doesn't want to do it.
Oh, come on.
I
walked it.
Yeah, you have.
Yes.
It's a beautiful drive, right?
Yes.
It's
it's nice. There's houses on one side. I think there's a campground.
Yeah.
Or like a lakeside. Yeah, on one side.
There's one curve that, of course, this being North Jersey, if you're drunk, you're going to hit the curve wrong.
Yes.
A lot of people.
A bridge.
Yeah. Yep.
Right before it. Yes.
Right before it. Yeah. So, no, I've never actually had to analyze a cryptid image. I would love to. I would absolutely love to. I remember I had the opportunity to go to a Bigfoot thing with you, but I had something conflicting with it, and I regret that to this day that I didn't do that. But
should have come out with us.
Huh?
Should have come out with us. Should have come out.
I know. There's a number of those things where I was invited to something and I couldn't go for one reason or another. The first time I was invited out to Lucasfilm, I couldn't go, and my friend who went met Ralph McQuarrie, who did all the conceptual art for the first Star Wars movie, like made Darth Vader. And he died shortly after that. And I was my wife will not let me forget that, because she was like, go, just drop everything and go. And I'm like, no, I'm a responsible adult. Can't do it. She was right. She's always right. If you're listening.
Always listening. Always listen. Because this is going back like 5 years now, but we had an opportunity to go out to Vegas for a science convention, and never been to one, never been to this particular one, SciCon. But they advertised that James Randi was going to be there.
I knew that's where you were going.
And I was like, I'm looking at it, and I remember like going back and forth. And then I came up to my wife. I'm like, I really want to go because he's getting old. He's getting up there. I love the guy dearly, but I want to meet him. Like, this is one of my bucket list things. I really want to meet him. And we literally like scraped together everything, and we saved, and we made the trip out. Because she's like, I think she saw the passion in my face, and I was like, I want to give the guy a hug. Right. I just want to hug him because he's been such an influence on me, and I want to just do that. And so we made it out there, and it was great. Luckily, I was able to go out there like 3 years in a row after that.
Nice. Okay.
And meet him again. But he just passed away this past year.
Yeah.
So very sad. I got to hug him. He's the sweetest guy. When you see videos of him, like on YouTube, when he's exposing psychics or other metaphysical people, Yeah, he looks like a hard ass motherfucker.
Badass, yeah, yep.
And but we got up to him, and I mean, he was the sweetest man that you could ever want to meet, and he was very nice to me. He was very, very nice to my wife. I mean, I gave him a book. I gave him my copy of
Oh,
Flim
nice.
Flam, and I was like, I really like. Could you autograph this? He's like, he took it from me. He looked at me. He's like, I'm gonna autograph it to her. And I'm like, motherfucker, don't fuck with me. I'm Philly. I will fuck you up. I don't care how old you are. Put my name on that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I mean, yeah, definitely. When you ever have a chance, you have to take it. Absolutely have to take it.
Yeah. There are chances that I've taken that I do not regret one bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always the ones that we don't take. It's like, oh, I should have done it.
Yep.
I should have done it. But if you take anything from this show tonight, take a chance.
Yep.
There you go.
Absolutely.
So we're winding down. We're in the last like 9 minutes of the show. I know. This is great.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, I could talk to you for hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. I love it.
I have friends like this, like you, all over the world, that if we lived a minute closer, we'd rule the world.
Oh my God.
I say this about my friend Matt, who we did the poster for Lucasfilm. If he's in Detroit, I'm on the East Coast. I said, if we ever got together, we'd be the Lucas and Spielberg of now. It's ridiculous, but it's the same. I mean, we could sit here and chat for another 2 hours and not even get started.
All right. So one more question from me before I let you like promote whatever you want to promote and do whatever you want to do. What advice do you have for people that are, if they're paranormal investigators, so ghost hunters, Bigfoot hunters, UFO hunters, what would you tell them photography wise? Like what to do, what to look for, what to prepare for?
Okay. So
probably a big question.
Yeah. And I think we covered it to a certain extent. Know your camera. Know what it's capable of. Know what it's not capable of. And if it's not capable of it, augment your camera, whether it be a lens choice or a flash. Spend your money on the lenses, not the camera. All right. So a camera is a collection device. It records. It's a recording device. The lens is your light collection device. So you want the lenses to be better than the camera. Yeah. So, right. So if you're a DSLR user, you want to spend more money on the lens because that is what is collecting the light. So the camera can record it. A sensor is a sensor. And I'm not a gear snob. Canon, Nikon, it doesn't matter. They all make great cameras. It's the glass. It's the lens that's collecting it. But know your camera. Know that your camera is going to function differently in, 10 degrees rather than, 84 degrees. Mm-hmm. There's going to be differences between taking your camera out from a air-conditioned room into a very humid environment. There's going to be consequences to that. You have to really, really know your camera. If you're going to investigate, this is a tool, and it's a tool that you have to know intimately. It's not a hammer. Hammer has one function. A camera has multiple functions. I mean, there are different ways to collect the light. There are shutter speed. There's the whole ratio. Shutter speed, f-stop, ISO. That all of that plays into into capturing an image. They call that the Holy Trinity.
Right. Yeah.
The whole other Holy Trinity. But that is the best advice. Know your camera and then control your camera. Do not let your camera control you, because when you're in auto, your camera's making the choices. Your camera, you're a tourist. When you start in aperture priority mode, or for the very advanced user, manual mode, then you're collecting evidence. You're in complete control of everything. Whether if you're in aperture priority mode, you're taking care of the aperture, you're letting the camera figure out the shutter speed, and you could you could trick the ISO, but it's mostly controlling the camera. That is the biggest thing. Knowing where the buttons are, everything.
Can you talk briefly about ISO?
Okay.
Explain that.
So ISO is what used to be called grain in film. And it's the higher the ISO, the more you can capture in low light, but you sacrifice clarity. And that clarity comes in the form of digital noise. And you can see it in the darkest darks. You'll see red, green, and blue everywhere. That's because that's what the camera is collecting. It's collecting 3 colors, red, green, and blue. So if you're shooting in what I call the basement, ISO 100, that is the ideal scenario because it is 0 noise. And the cameras nowadays go up to like 64,000 ISO. And that is great. That is great for a portrait photographer. That is great for sports photography because you can increase your shutter speed with more ISO. It is awful for the paranormal investigator because you're introducing artificial noise, and that can be mistaken for a host of things inside of an image. You'll get grain, you'll get skin that might look like something's trying to crawl out of it. It's a really muddy image. If you're collecting evidence, you really want to shoot in the basement, and you can compensate for that by increasing your flash, or maybe going to f5.6 or 8. I wouldn't go anywhere below 5.6 if you're shooting for evidence, because you get below that, then you're going to get a certain amount of orbs. 5.6, your orbs will be smaller, much like the tree behind me.
That way.
Over there. But you'll get smaller orbs. The lower the number is, the higher the aperture, and you'll get those bigger orbs. Right. So stay at f8 or f11, right? Shoot in aperture priority mode or go into manual mode if you're comfortable with that. I saw a t-shirt that says, everyone's a photographer until M, which is on the dial. That's manual. And a lot of people are like, what is that?
So, like, I don't know if you can see it, but let me see. It's a little blurry.
It's the M.
It's on M with manual mode. And I do, like, my ISO goes up to 6400.
6400,
on this one.
So,
so I don't.
For years, I shot with the D2X, which is a very expensive camera. I shot with that for 10 years. And if I got anywhere above 1200 ISO, unusable image. It's too grainy. I upgraded a few years ago to a D500, which is a smaller camera, but oh my God, the ISO is ridiculous. I can now shoot at maybe 6400 ISO and have nice smooth skin tones. So here's perfect example. Birthday candle, right?
Yeah.
It's your son's birthday. You got a single birthday candle with one flame on it, one lumen. That's what they call one candle. At 6400, I can capture them blowing out the candle with the smoothest skin tones you've ever seen on this new D500. I could never do that with the camera from 10 years ago. And that's how amazing the technology is going. There have been more advancements in the last 20 years of photography. Here's photography in the last 20 years than the last like 100 years of photography. There's been more advancements in that. It's a great field. I love it.
Awesome. All right. We are at the 2-hour mark. So, my God, the time flies, dude. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed tonight. This was a lot of fun. And I think people learned a lot.
I hope so. I hope so. So,
go ahead.
No, I mean, any more questions, they can reach out to you or they can reach out to me on Facebook.
Right.
Absolutely. I love questions.
So, yeah, there you go. Look, late to the party, but this is fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kenny. Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone else. So, yeah, this is going to YouTube. It live streamed to Facebook, but it also went to my YouTube channel, so it'll be on there forever, for all eternity. And I'll promote it afterwards. I'll send you the link to this afterwards, so you can use it or share it if you want to.
Great.
But we talked about your, how do you say this?
Kanzari.
Okay, yep. Kanzari cards. which are pretty cool. So do you have stock of this?
I do not. You can get those at Kanzari.com.
Okay. I'll put the link in the chat room.
Yeah.
And definitely
Those I have.
I recommend. Oh my God, I can't recommend these enough. Just because I'm constantly telling people, ghost hunters especially, learn how to use your fucking camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
You learn, understand what everything does, and this is the best way to do it.
And unlike every other photo book out there, these are $10. Every photo book is like $40. My textbook, the one that I teach with, is $111. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is great because $10. I got all 4 packs.
Yeah.
So you got the wedding, and I mean, even though it says wedding, mobile edition, macro, I mean, especially macro, it's there are different challenges, but you get to understand what you're doing better.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be a paranormal investigator that uses a camera and displays photographs as evidence, you need to learn everything you can learn about your camera. You need to understand it. If someone like me or Paul comes up to your table and says, "Oh, hey, that's a pretty good picture. How did you get that?"
Tell me how you got there.
You better be able to explain it. If you just say, "Oh, well, I just, put my camera up and I click the button." No. You're going to have a world of hurt.
Yeah.
Mostly from me. Paul will be much nicer.
I'll send you over there.
I can see you going across the room going, "Hey, Kenny, come here. I need you to talk to this guy." And then you walk away because you're a dick like that.
This is awesome.
So we have the Kazani cards. We have the Lightbox cards.
Yep. My brand new book.
Brand new book.
Came out last week.
I did watch the video where you unboxed this.
Oh my God, wasn't that great? That was
great. I love your reactions.
When you put a book out and you're leaving the printing to somebody else, it's terrifying.
Right.
Because color can shift in the printing process.
And I know how much of a perfectionist you are.
Oh yeah. Yep. And this turned out just so much better than I thought it would. It's absolutely amazing. So it's about 15 years of my image making, all in one book. And each one is signed by me if you order it through the site. And I'm just absolutely thrilled with it. It was supposed to come out last year, 2020, the year of vision, right? But then what happened? Oh, right, a global pandemic stuff.
Yeah, COVID. Yeah, it kind of happened.
But as soon as we hit 2021, the printers got right on it, and I'm absolutely thrilled with it.
Awesome. And if you need any information from Paul, I mean, you have a website, which I will put up. Let's see. There's your website up on the screen right now. Paul Michael Kane Photography.zenfolio.com.
Yep.
There you go. So reach out to him, reach out to me. If you have any questions or further follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me. And if it concerns Paul, I'll reach out to him. So, dude, so awesome.
So wait, so Geeks and Ghosts, that's still a thing, right?
It's there in the background once in a while. We stopped for a while because it was just getting too much. But like I said, we did a show when the season finale of Mandalorian came out. We did a show that next weekend because it was
that's awesome. Okay.
Way too much. We could not. And we went into everything. I think it ended up to be like a 3-hour show.
Oh my God.
Because we just kept going on and on and on. So, oh my goodness.
Well, we have to do this again. This was fun.
Yes, definitely. I think this is nice. Once in a while, I do a show where I ask people to send in their photos. I don't know if it was just an off week because nobody sent in any photos, but it's all good.
They were just captivated. Two handsome men,
I was. Yeah, I love bald men. So, but yeah, once in a while I do a show where I'm like, you know what? I usually no guest because I can't get a guest. And then I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to look at photos and I'll ask people during the week. But, if you're not busy,
Yeah.
you're more than welcome. Come
Awesome.
on and then, take a stab at them.
Very good. Awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. It's funny too, because I've got a new show, not a new show, a new interview coming Tuesday. Some guy I don't even know where he is. He's interviewing me about my photography and all the Stephen King stuff that I do. So this has been a banner week.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I love your shit. So,
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. I've been looking forward to this all week. It's a perfect way to end the week.
awesome. All right, I'm gonna put you in the background. Don't go away yet.
Nope.
I'm gonna put you in the background. I'm gonna do my closing and then play my video, and we'll chat a little bit.
All right.
All right. Sweet. So let me put you in the back here. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. Paul Michael Kane was our guest. Awesome photographer, awesome guy. I hope you learned a little bit, especially about photography. I mean, that's what we talked about. And how important it was to know your camera, know your equipment before you go into an investigation. It's really, really important. And I can't stress that enough. And I'm glad that somebody else can come on so you don't just listen to me preach about it. You can listen to a professional photographer tell you, the same shit. So it's really good. So anyway, let's see. Next week on the Skeptical Help Bar, I'm going to have Ross Dubler from the New York City Skeptics Society. He's also a editor and writer for Adventures in Poor Taste website, which is it's more of a comic book associated and pop culture website, but he runs the science and skepticism section. So he's going to be on and talk about the New York City Skeptics. He's going to talk about Skepticism Month, which is February, and then all the work that he does. Tomorrow night on Three Tortured Souls, which is the other podcast that I do, 8:00 p.m. Eastern with Tim and Dave, we're going to be talking about pareidolia. So that's pretty much seeing shapes, familiar shapes and patterns in abstract kind of environments or settings, which is going to be really cool. And then we're also going to talk about our experiments. We're going to give you the updates on our experiments about the weeping statues, which is going to be interesting to say the least. So stay tuned for that. And then there's a few other things, but nothing's confirmed. But if you have a podcast and you want a skeptic guy on, please reach out to me. I love doing that kind of stuff. Love talking on panels, giving them the alternate or opposite opposing view, because it's always fun. It creates drama. So with that, I am going to play my video and get out of here. But I'm going to leave you with my tagline, which is never stop learning. I'll see you next week.